Where does your consciousness go when you sleep? This seemingly simple question carries a mystery that has intrigued humanity for thousands of years. You lie down, turn off the lights, close your eyes. Your body stays still, surrendered to the silence of the night. But your mind, does it disappear? Or does it stay active in a reality we don't know? Every day, we experience this mystery without truly understanding it. We dive into worlds where the laws of time, logic, and physics don't apply. We fly without wings, meet people who have already died, live through situations that never happened, and still everything feels real. How can this be explained? Conventional science says that sleep is just a brain rest, a biological maintenance period so the body can recover, a scheduled, almost mechanical pause in the activity of consciousness. But is that really all there is to it? Carl Jung said, "Dreams are spontaneous manifestations of the unconscious, revealing repressed or forgotten content from the conscious mind." If we take this statement as a base, then sleep is not a suspension of consciousness, but a transformation of it. It is when we stop looking at the outside world and turn our eyes inward, to the hidden landscapes of the soul. What happens there in that space between closing your eyes and waking up? Are dreams just bits of mixed-up memories? Or are they connecting us to something greater, deeper, and more mysterious? This video is an invitation for you to go beyond the surface of sleep and dive into its deepest layers. Imagine your mind as a house. During the day, the windows are open, the front door is wide open, and everything you see, hear, and feel comes from the outside. But at night, this house changes. The outside lights go off, the door closes, and other inner doors open. During sleep, the brain doesn't shut down. Contrary to what many believe, it enters a state of deep activity, reorganizing memories, processing emotions, and even activating areas that are quieter when we're awake. But there's a curious and revealing detail. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, planning, and decision-making, reduces its activity. Meanwhile, areas like the visual and emotional centers become highly active. This explains why dreams are often chaotic, symbolic, intense, and full of emotion. With logic set aside and imagination turned up, our consciousness stops following the straight road of reason and ventures down instinctive, archetypal paths filled with images and sensations. But why does this happen? From the perspective of analytical psychology, sleep is the moment when the ego, the part of the conscious mind that deals with the world, steps aside, allowing the unconscious to take the stage. Jung described this process as a symbolic descent into the darkness of the psyche. It's when we disconnect from duties, names, and masks and become something closer to our essence. There's a certain kind of wisdom in this nightly reorganization of consciousness. The inner world lights up exactly when the outer world goes dark. Maybe sleep isn't a break from conscious life, but a shift in focus from the objectivity of the world to the subjectivity of the soul. During sleep, especially in the REM phase, the one where dreams are most vivid, something extraordinary happens in the brain. A substance called dimethyltryptamine, or simply DMT, is released in small amounts. This molecule, also found in certain plants used in ancient rituals, is known for triggering intense visions, out-of-body experiences, and altered states of consciousness. But what is it doing there inside our brain while we sleep? Science still doesn't have definitive answers. However, the fact that the body naturally produces such a powerful substance during sleep raises an intriguing question. What if dreams aren't just symbolic constructions of the mind, but real experiences of consciousness on different frequencies? People who have had experiences with DMT report encounters with entities, environments of impossible geometry, perceptions beyond time, and feelings of unity with everything. Interestingly, these reports are often similar to particularly vivid dreams. For Jung, the inner world is just as real as the outer world, maybe even more. He called this psychic reality the objective reality of the psyche. In this sense, dreaming wouldn't be imagining, but directly experiencing the symbolic content of the unconscious, with all its archetypal forces in motion. The presence of DMT in the brain during sleep seems to suggest that dreams are more than a product of the mind. They are experiences in other fields of consciousness. Worlds with their own logic, their own laws, their own lessons. Maybe you're not dreaming in the sense of fantasizing. Maybe you're traveling, and DMT is the fuel. In March 1865, just days before he was assassinated, Abraham Lincoln told a close friend about a disturbing dream. In the dream, he was walking through the White House and came upon a coffin surrounded by soldiers. When he asked who had died, he was told, "The president. He was assassinated." Days later, Lincoln was shot and killed. This is just one of many reports of dreams that seem to anticipate future events with unsettling accuracy. Are they just coincidences? Fragments of anxiety that came true? Or is there something more? Carl Jung believed that dreams can contain elements of the future because the psyche has access to dimensions where past, present, and future coexist. He called this synchronicity, the occurrence of events connected by meaning, not direct cause. Have you ever had the strange feeling that you already knew something was going to happen? Have you ever dreamed about someone you hadn't seen in years and then, the next day, got a message from them or ran into them? Maybe the unconscious has its own way of seeing time, a kind of perception that goes beyond the limits of logic and connects us to something greater, to the field of wholeness. Jung described the self, the organizing center of the psyche, as timeless. It doesn't exist in chronology, but in totality. And dreams might be one of the purest expressions of this self, offering glimpses not only of what we were or are, but of what we are becoming. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night. Your eyes are open, you recognize the room, you hear sounds around you, but you can't move. Not a single muscle responds. And as if that weren't enough, you feel a presence. Something or someone seems to be there watching. Sometimes it comes closer. Other times it sits on your chest. Your breathing becomes shallow. Fear settles in like a thick fog. This is the experience of sleep paralysis, a phenomenon more common than most people think, and one that has fueled myths and legends across different cultures for centuries. Science explains paralysis as a failure in the transition between REM sleep and wakefulness. The brain wakes up before the body, which is still shut off due to the muscle atonia of deep sleep. It's a natural safety mechanism to prevent us from moving during dreams. But this explanation doesn't account for what many people describe: presences, figures, vivid sensations of threat. Carl Jung, if faced with this phenomenon, would likely see it through a different lens. For him, the dark content that appears in dreams or during altered states of consciousness are expressions of the shadow. What if the presences felt during sleep paralysis are projections of our own shadow? Symbolic representations of pain, fear, or trauma we avoid facing during the day. There's also a bolder hypothesis. What if, during paralysis, we actually have one foot in another dimension? A liminal state where consciousness expands beyond the physical. Many spiritual traditions speak of these moments as gaps between worlds, portals to subtle realities we don't perceive while awake. Whether a physiological glitch or access to other realms, sleep paralysis confronts us with the unknown. And in that confrontation, it reveals how much we still don't understand about ourselves and about the nature of reality. Imagine being inside a dream and suddenly realizing, this is a dream. You look around, everything still feels real, but now, and more than that, you can choose. You can fly, walk through walls, visit places, or talk to symbolic figures. You are conscious, inside the unconscious. This is the state of lucid dreaming, an extraordinary experience where awareness wakes up in the middle of the dream. For science, this phenomenon activates areas of the brain related to self-awareness, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is usually inactive during sleep. It's as if, for a moment, two realities overlap: the waking world and the dream world. Inside a lucid dream, everything is flexible. The rules can be broken. But beyond entertainment, this state offers therapeutic and transformative opportunities. It's possible to face fears, talk to archetypes, and reconnect with forgotten memories. Some spiritual traditions see lucid dreams as training for death, a moment when consciousness must remain awake even outside the physical body. Others view them as portals for astral travel or contact with more subtle levels of existence. But perhaps the greatest revelation of lucid dreams is this: consciousness is not tied to the body, not even to the waking state. It can emerge in places and moments we never imagined, like a spark of clarity in the middle of dreamlike chaos. Some people report dreaming repeatedly about the same places, the same settings, the same faces, even though these elements don't belong to their waking life. These recurring dreams of parallel realities raise a deep question. What if we are, in fact, accessing other versions of ourselves? What if dreams are windows into what modern physics calls the multiverse, the infinite set of possible realities coexisting on different planes? The theory of the multiverse, once limited to science fiction, is now considered a viable hypothesis by some physicists. In simple terms, it suggests that for every choice not made, for every path not taken, there exists a reality where that other possibility became real. What we think of as imaginary may, on some level, be a parallel reality. Jung said, "The psyche is a world in itself, with gods, demons, laws, landscapes. In other words, there is a universe within us." And maybe what we call a dream is not a nighttime invention of the mind, but a real journey through these inner or outer universes. The next time you dream of a place you feel, even if you don't recognize it rationally, ask yourself, where does that memory come from? What reality is it speaking of? Maybe you're just remembering something you never lived here. You wake up with a vague memory of a dream. For a brief moment, it feels vivid, almost tangible. But as soon as you move, check your phone, or think about your daily tasks, it fades away. From a neuroscientific point of view, the explanation involves the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for consolidating memory. During REM sleep, the phase in which dreams are most intense, the hippocampus functions differently. It doesn't record dream experiences as effectively as it does waking events. It's as if the bridge between the dream world and the conscious world is temporarily weakened. But this technical explanation doesn't fully capture the symbolic depth of forgetting. In psychology, forgetting dreams can have a protective function. Jung believed that many dream contents are so deep, so intense, that consciousness isn't ready to absorb them right away. There's also a symbolic perspective. A dream is like a letter written in invisible ink. It only reveals itself when there is silence, listening, and presence. If we wake up in a rush, immersed in routine, we lose the chance to decode that message from the soul. Forgetting the dream, then, also reflects how we live. There are ways to nurture dream recall. Keep a notebook beside your bed and write down whatever you remember as soon as you wake up. Repeat mentally before sleeping, "I will remember what I dream." Create rituals of attention, silence, and reverence for the inner world. In alchemy, which Jung studied deeply, the process of transforming matter goes through a stage called nigredo, symbolic death. The matter dissolves, enters decay, and then reemerges in a purified form. The same happens with the psyche. Old structures must collapse so that something new can rise. And dreams, with their symbolic language, reflect this movement. Dying in a dream can represent the end of a persona, a social mask that no longer serves you. It can mark the closing of a cycle, a preparation for deep change. It can also symbolize a meeting with the deep unconscious, the moment when the ego surrenders to the self. Maybe that's why many who die in dreams wake up with a new sense of clarity, not like someone who lost something, but like someone who rediscovered something, a part of themselves that had been hidden beneath the fear of change. Sleep is not simply a disconnection from reality, but an opportunity to access deep levels of consciousness, where the ego dissolves and the soul can finally express itself freely. Dreams are not just fragments of our subconscious, but portals that connect us to other dimensions of being, both within and beyond ourselves. To sleep, then, is an act of courage. We are not just surrendering to physical rest, but navigating unknown landscapes of the psyche, facing fears, challenging limits, and often rediscovering parts of ourselves that were hidden. So, the next time you lie down to sleep, remember you're not just turning off your body. You're stepping into a portal, an opportunity to explore, transform, and awaken to something much greater than you can imagine. Sleep is one of the most powerful ways to connect with the soul.